What's up everyone, this is CyberKnight 8610 and today I'm actually in front of the camera. Man, it's been a while since I've done a video where I'm actually, in front of the camera. Usually I'm behind it doing opening videos. But anyway, for today I wanted to do a top 10 list over my top 10 favorite Synchro Monsters. And I said something about doing this list in my Hidden Arsenal opening. You guys seem to really enjoy the idea, so I was thinking, yeah, let's go ahead and go with this list. So while I was working on it, I guess honestly didn't realize how many Synchro Monsters there really are out there. So if your favorite isn't on this list, I'm sorry, because this was a really tough list to put together. Because I went through all the different Synchro Monsters, just pulled up all the different ones and went through them. And on this list, I'm mainly going with nostalgia and cards that I've used the most. Synchro Monsters that I've used the most and enjoyed using. So it's not the most powerful Synchro Monsters out there. That could be a list for another day. But yeah, I just wanted you guys to know that this is not easy to choose just 10, or at least it's not for me. So yeah, let's go on ahead and get started with this list. For number 10, we have Super Heavy Samurai Warlord Susanoo. This one, I know, might be a little bit controversial because it is such a new Synchro Monster. But for people that may know, I really enjoy using Super Heavy Samurais. I use them a lot. I mean, they're basically an archetype where you can just use all monsters in the whole deck, no spells and traps. They're so much fun to use, and their Synchro Monster Susanoo is just such an epic card. And then, of course, with their defense technically being their attack, that makes him he's actually really powerful. His effect making it so you get your opponent's spell cards, which can definitely come in handy. I mean, you can take away Regeki, for example, or, just something and use it against them. So that makes it a very useful card, and, yeah, I mean, it's so easy to bring out for Super Heavy Samurais. It's so much fun for me to use. I had to include on this list because, like I said, Super Heavy Samurais have become one of my favorite archetypes of Arc 5, and I've enjoyed using the Synchro Monster so much, and it can really annoy your opponent, too. So that's just a bonus. And for number 9, we have TG Halberd Cannon. Now, I had to have one of the TG Synchros on this list. I mean, Excel Synchros are just so cool. Anyway, it's cool we're actually seeing more Excel Synchros now. And with Halberd Cannon, I mean, he freaking blew up the sun in one of the episodes. I don't know if that was ever dubbed in English, too. I don't know if that counted as Season 4 or whatever, kind of like we did with GX. They didn't dub it all into English. But, yeah, he blew up the sun during the duel. He grabs hold of stars and, throws them into the ground. I mean, this thing is just so freaking epic. He reminds me, too, of kind of a mix of, being a robot, being a mix kind of like Gurren Lagann or Code Geass, like the nightmares from there, or even, of course, Gundam, another obvious one, I guess, to go with. But yeah, it's just so awesome looking. It was so much fun to summon back then, especially when TGs were first revealed and everything, and it really wasn't that hard to bring out either. I mean, with TGs, they were one of the first decks out there that made it so synchro summoning was just, boom, alright, you have your best Synchro Monster out on the field in your first turn. I mean, it was just so epic, and it's a really amazing card to use, great effect, and like I said, it blew up the sun. I mean, honestly, it deserves to be on every list, just for that reason alone. For number 8, we have Shooting Quasar Dragon. Now, I feel like this had to be on the list. Like, I would have an angry mob after me if this wasn't. First off, it is probably the strongest Synchro Monster out there. It might be one of the tougher ones to summon for certain decks. I mean, with Synchrons, it's, 3 of these in one turn, and then your opponent's just crying in the corner. I mean, it's just that simple. It is one of the most annoying Synchros to go against, and one of the toughest ones, too. So it definitely deserves respect. And in the anime, it was really cool to see it as well. I mean, it is basically all the Signer Dragons together, going against the Time Lords, I believe it was the duel against the Time Lords where it's summoned, and I need to rewatch 5Ds too. I'm starting to remember all these epic moments. It's just such an awesome Synchro Monster, and like I said, it is one of the toughest ones out there. It's kind of been like, I like Quasar, but he's just not really something I would have high on my top 10 list. But that, like I said, he's definitely, if it was a top 10 strongest list, he'd definitely be at least top 3, I feel like, if not number 1. And for number 7, we have Dragoon Knight Vatriana. Now, I know you guys knew that I would have a Dragoon Knight on this list. Of course I had to, but it's only one. So, at least I didn't go crazy with it. That was actually pretty tough for me. But Vatriana deserves it because he's the one that made everything happen. And without this card, I don't think Dragoonities would have gotten so much recognition. I mean, this is the card that made it so they were really powerful, made it so they can go for any level 8 Synchro instantly, and made them one of the top decks there for a while. So this card definitely deserves the most praise out of all Dragoonity cards. And without Dragoonities wouldn't have been nearly as strong, and it definitely deserves a place on this list. And for number 6, this one was actually really tough because I almost wanted to cheat and go with 3 Synchros taking this spot because, they're kind of the same. But also, it felt like a cop-out, so I did end up choosing which one I thought was the best of the 3, and that is Scarlet Red Dragon Archfiend. Yeah, it's hard to choose. I love Red Dragon Archfiend, I love High Red Dragon Archfiend, and then of course you have Scarlet. I like their, their evolutions too, like the stronger versions of them, but I've mainly wanted to have their original forms on this list. And Scarlight, which is the newest one, I feel like is the best one. And the artwork too seems the best, just everything about him seems really cool. I like how his arm is messed up. I feel like Scarlight and Hot Red Dragon are basically what Red Dragon Archfiend should have been, because Red Dragon Archfiend, in all honesty, didn't have the best effect out of the rest of the Signer Dragons. It might have been a little bit better than Blackwing Dragon, and that's about it, honestly. He did have the attack, at least. I mean, he was the strongest in terms of attack, but other than that, I mean, you think Red Dragon Archfiend, especially in the anime, he destroys everything, he's so awesome, especially in the show. I mean, he is one of my favorite Signer Dragons, and he just looks so awesome. And even all the different forms to him. So I really enjoyed how we got a new version to him, well, two new versions technically, with Hot Red and Scarlight, but still, all three of them, I mean, I kind of want to cheat and say that I would put them all three at the same spot of this list, but for people out there that may not want me to cop out and want me to actually choose, I guess I go with Scarlight. But again, that is a very hard choice because I really am nostalgic for Red Dragon Archfiend because he was one of the first synchros I remember using, and just so cool. I mean, come on, he just looks so awesome. For number 5, we have Brownak, Dragon of the Ice Barrier. Now, of course, this card had to be on the list. It would be on the list for the top 10 strongest as well. I mean, it just has to be on the list. This card changes games. I mean, that's the reason it's banned. And I don't know if we're ever going to see it again, unfortunately, for that reason. In all honesty, I think I would say this is the strongest Ice Barrier Dragon. I know Trishula is technically supposed to be the strongest, but Brownak is just ridiculous in its effect. It is a little bit too strong, I'll admit it, okay? Just get rid of your opponent's field, and then, and it didn't have too bad of attack either. And being a level 6 Synchro Monster that's generic, yeah, it wasn't tough at all to bring out. So, obviously, I missed this card, but I thought it was a really amazing card and everything. I'm kind of glad it's gone because it was such a threat, yet I miss it because I miss using it. So, it's an awesome card and one of the best Synchro Monsters out there, and it was actually one of the first, too. So, it was when we actually started seeing Synchros as being really powerful monsters, and I just think it deserves to be on this list for that reason, and it would be on any top 10 list and most powerful as well. For number 4, this one was another one that was a little bit tough, and that is Clearwing Synchro Dragon. Now, I know, this is another newish synchro, and I don't know if people are going to like that or not like that as much, because I feel like more people want me to talk about the older synchros, but a lot of these synchros we've had lately have been awesome. And I'm just really happy to see one of the main kind of side characters having such a powerful synchro monster like Clearwing. I mean, you could almost say Crystal Wing should be on this list instead, but for me, I went with the original form, kind of like with Red Dragon Archfiend. You go with the original form, and Clearwing to me is just a really awesome card. It's one of my favorites from Arc 5. I think it's definitely one of the best synchros we've had in quite a while, and a really amazing effect, and really cool in the anime too. And it's still one of my favorites, I think, from Arc 5 in general, one of my favorite cards that's been shown. And now we're to our top 3, so here's where it gets really tough. So for number 3 we have Black Rose Dragon. Of course it had to be on this list. This is where things seem to really change for Synchros. It can win the game for you because it can just wipe out everything, and it's basically the giant reset button of the game. A lot of people refer to it as a nuke. I always think of it as a reset button. It's like, oh, I don't like all those monsters and everything you set up. No, reset button. I just want to redo everything and change this duel for myself. So that's basically what it reminds me of the most, and it definitely, again, is one of the strongest synchros we've had out there and one of the big game changers we've had too. And now we're to number 2. So here we go. We have Goyo Guardian. Again, that's another one that's kind of a no-brainer, right? Goyo Guardian is such a powerful monster in terms of attack for being a level 6 synchro. And then also, not only that, its effect, where it's able to steal your opponent's monsters, and then you can use them to synchro summon, and nowadays Xyz summon and everything too. It's pretty ridiculous. What I think is so funny about this card is that it's a level 6 with 2,800 attack. It's one of those cards, and it's kind of, going back to one of those things too. The same things happen with Xyz and Pendulums as well, where it feels like Konami's like thinking about their new types of cards. They're like, okay, what should we do to get people to use this? And they're like, oh, okay, well, we'll make sure this one's really strong. It's like they didn't really think it through, and they're like they kind of learned from it, like, okay, either they're trying to get people to use the new types of cards, or it's more like, let's try this out and see what happens. Oh crap, we just made a really powerful Synchro Monster. And that's what it kind of seems like with this, because it seems like it should not have had that strong of attack. I mean, it's strong enough to take on Stardust, which is a level 8 Synchro. And that's why it has to be second on this list, because not only is it nostalgic, it was one of the first synchros, and it was one of the most powerful synchros. So it really changed the game for synchros, just like Black Rose, and made it so people had to use them pretty much, and it was worth using. And before we get to number 1, I want to get to some honorable mentions. So maybe this will even show you what I didn't choose, but if I would have had a longer list, these would have definitely been like, you know, I guess in the top 15 or something if you want to go with that. So for honorable mentions, we have Trishula, Dragon of the Ice Barrier. I know this one might surprise some people. It's kind of like Quasar. It's one I didn't use too much. I used Trishula a little bit more than Quasar, but it's just not as nostalgic to me. Again, if you're talking about some of the strongest synchros out there, it is easily on that list, but in terms of nostalgia and favorite for me, I can't really put it on the list. Again, if it was like a top 15 list, yeah, it might even be number 11. I'll say that. It'd probably be number 11. But for me, I just couldn't put it on the top 10. Then after that, we have Odin, Father of the Aesir. I almost had this as like number 8. I really thought on this one. I just thought it was cool that 5Ds actually had their own god cards. I mean, Yu-Gi-Oh, of course, the original series had Obelisk, Lifer, and Ra. Then GX, we had the Sacred Beast. So then 5Ds had the Polar Gods, which I thought was really cool how they were based off Norse mythology instead of always Egyptian mythology. So that was pretty cool. And I've still been kind of upset that Zexal never had their own god cards, really, and it doesn't look like Arc 5 has their own god cards yet either, unless I'm missing something. So for me, I thought it was really cool to see some kind of new form of god cards and something powerful that is a synchro monster like that, and it was just a really cool card, and of course you have to go with Odin to add all of them. I like all 3 of them, but you have to go with the father of all of them, right? I mean, come on. Ally of Justice, Catastor. Now this is another one where it was like one of the main synchros that came out and everyone was thinking that, again, we have to start using synchros, and it was a really powerful one because it could just run over most things. It doesn't matter if it's strong or not. Who cares? I have Catastor. I can run it over. And that just made Catastor such a great card. I remember people going crazy once in the Dual Terminal, and then later on for Hidden Arsenal 1, and one of those cards that people were trying to hunt down. So it deserves an honorable mention. Really amazing card, and one of the ones that definitely helped out synchros to get noticed. Then after that we have Mistworm. Kind of the same thing as Catastor, honestly. It's kind of that same level where it's really nostalgic. It was one of the ones I was trying to hunt for the original Hidden Arsenal, and Dual Terminals and everything too, so it's pretty much everything I just said about Catastor, same thing for Mistworm. I mean, it's basically on that same level, so again, it deserves an honorable mention. And by now, you may have already guessed my number 1 pick, and it is Stardust Dragon. Yes, I know, people might be upset with me choosing Stardust, but it has to be Stardust, or at least for me. And then, of course, Stardust Assault being one of my favorite cards ever, I have to go with the original. I have to go with Stardust Dragon. It was always the one I went with when I used Dragoonities. It was always the one I went with every deck I used. And especially one for the Assault mode, too. I mean, you know, it was just so awesome to do. Main Character's Monster has so many different forms to it, and it's just the one that really means a lot to me. He just looks so awesome in the show and everything too, and it's just always been one of my favorite cards for that reason. And so when you're talking about in terms of Synchro's favorite cards, Stardust has to be up there, and I don't think people can really argue and say that it doesn't deserve to be high on any Synchro list, no matter if you're going from strongest to favorites. I feel like this would at least be top 5 for most people, but for me it has to be number 1, mainly for nostalgia, but a lot for playability as well, because everything I used there for the longest time used Stardust, and like I said, I used Dragoonies so long there for a while, and used Stardust Assault build with it, and it was just so much fun. It was what I was known for using for such a long time, and it just means a lot to me. But yeah, there you go. That is my top 10 favorite Synchro Monster list. What do you guys think about this list? Obviously, you don't have to agree with me. Tell me in the comments what you guys think, if you have your own top 10 list, or at least top 5. Again, if you really look through it, you'll realize that this is not an easy thing to do, because in all honesty, I wanted to make like a top 25 list, but that would be a little bit too ridiculous and too long of a video on that, because there are more synchros out there I really like, and especially when you are going with nostalgia and stuff too, it is a really tough thing to come up with a top 10 favorites. So forgive me if your favorite's not on here, but again, it still might be one of my favorites, just not on the top 10 list. But I want to know what you guys think, and it's kind of a challenge for you guys too to see what your top 10 list would be. Also, if you like videos like this, of course you want to see more top 10 lists, let me know in the comments. I'd love to hear if you guys want to see maybe a top 10 favorite XC monsters, maybe even a top most powerful synchros. I don't know. I just want to hear some different ideas with you guys, and I know you guys have wanted to see some kind of different content on this channel, so I'm trying to bring that to you guys, and I'm wanting to see what works. So by liking this video and leaving a comment, you're showing that you want to see more content like this. And of course, openings are never going to go anywhere. I mean, you guys know I'm addicted to pack openings, so that's definitely not going to change at all on that. So yeah, I hope you guys have enjoyed this video, and I hope you guys have agreed with at least a few of my choices on this list, if not all of them. And of course, as always, thank you guys for watching. Thank you guys for supporting my channel. You guys are amazing as always, and of course, I will catch you guys later. See ya.
Hope you guys have enjoyed my latest video. Be sure to subscribe for more Yu-Gi-Oh videos, as well as check out my other two channels, CyberKnight Games for Let's Plays, and also CyberKnight CCG for Card Fight Vanguard openings. Thank you for watching, and I'll catch you guys later. See ya.